Thank you very much. Please be seated. It's indeed a pleasure to be participating in this ceremony this afternoon. And just let me say that the voice of the young has always been a voice that I listen to because I was young too.
That's right.
And not often it was my voice heard or listened to. And I know how I felt when that didn't happen. It's always not a good thing after you would have spoken and then you say, well, I told you so. That's one thing my father always tell me, is never allow anyone to tell you, I told you so. That means you should listen. Because if they tell you, I told you so, it means they didn't listen. I'm happy to see all of you who are here today. The chair lady, the chairperson of the Women's Branch, present. The chairperson of the Carmichael Branch. The chairperson of the Baines and Grandstand. Fellow councillors in our midst, chairpersons of Garden Hills. So we all here witnessing the installation of our young board for the Progressive Young Liberals. So being here present and witnessing this event and hearing from the president of the board, I think we all are joined into ensuring that his charge to us as the elder statespersons in the party is carried out, and make sure that the stubbornness that has pervaded us over the many years as a party, in recent years over the party, it dissipates and is no longer there. And so I say good afternoon to all of you.
Good afternoon.
You know, the youth is a critical component of the future of this organization and of the development of our nation. So your participation here today speaks volumes to our country at large. All is not lost. All of you have answered the call to service and have stepped forward to work for your party and country, becoming shining examples to others. Your bold and brave step today is a testimony that you are all prepared to choose the right path, and thus today I want to congratulate each of you, every one of you, for beginning that service within our party.
Yes.
Our country needs to fully understand what is happening today in the lives of young people in our party. A party that for more than 60 years carried the vision to change our country for the better. Young people, just like you, believed in the Bahamas, as you pointed out, Master Griffin. They believed in the prospects back then of a bright future for our country. Back then, they believed in transforming the lives of their fellow men, and they believed in the PLP. Your mission and mine, as we together chart the future of our party, must be to learn from the past, make corrections to better fit today's world, and turn our eyes towards the future. I am bringing a message all across the country that we in the PLP must rebuild, rebrand, and renew our organization. And your role in this effort is most important. In fact, each and every one of you must become the drivers of this change that will come to our party and our country. Today is a day of renewal in the PLP, a time where your role is not only to sit as members of this youth organization, but also as members of an institution that has transformed the lives of citizens for all these many years. You are the inheritors of a rich and glorious organization.
Yes, yes.
And you represent the embodiment of that PLP philosophy, to uplift the poor, encourage the weak, and inspire new hope, and work to realize the dreams of your fellow man.
That's right.
Your job and mine is to make life better for every man, woman, and child within this country. Your job, brothers and sisters, is to reinvigorate, strengthen, and make the support for the Progressive Liberal Party strong once again.
Yes.
Our job just ahead these next 56 months, not long, 56 months, is to inspire our people, particularly young people, to see what it truly means to become a part of this great progressive organization.
Yes.
The world is changing. The country, in my view, has taken a turn away from the course of progress. We have to change that direction in order to improve lives and better the future for our young people.
Yes.
Today, we are seeing terrible things have begun to happen. To the leadership on our side opposite, it appears they just don't care. Jobs are being lost. Workers hired with legitimate contracts supported and advanced by technical officers in government, are being cancelled by this present administration.
Cancel.
We see F&Ms attempting to terminate the services of Bahamians and send them to the unemployment lines.
My Lord.
Workers are getting no clarity on what is happening with their contracts, even though some of them have worked for a department for more than 6 years. And then there's a minister telling the staff while running out of a meeting, blame the PLP,
Someone is saying it.
blame us. After they cut salaries in their budget, they have the power to keep the people working, not us. So why blame us? Almost every Friday, you get word of some persons being sent home. And while the times are hard on Ragged Island and Grand Bahama, I see the Prime Minister dancing in Port Lucaya with no plan or direction. Young liberals, I beg your indulgence so that I may respond to some developments that I must address. I want you to hear. Now, I was quite surprised to see Friday morning's Tribune headline, which grossly sensationalized and misconstrued the comments I made in an interview with one of his reporters. But you know, the truth of the matter is, what the fuss was all about in any event. Right? Just my comments, as detailed in small print, was simply that there must have been a justification by the BEC, BPL board, if indeed the tender process was circumvented. They detailed several contracts that were awarded to PLBs. And the fact of the matter, the minister omitted to say that those same contracts are still in place, still being carried out by the same administration. In fact, the persons bidded and they accepted their bid and extended the contract. But yet, they put it out there to cause the fuss. That's why the question is, what the fuss is all about. And anyone who understands how these matters work must know that circumvention without justification is not acceptable. If you circumvent the process and you can't justify it, that's not acceptable. We can't accept that, could we? Secondly, I stated that being a PLP or being perceived to be a PLP does not and should not disqualify anyone from doing business with the government.
That's right, that's right.
It is very clear that it also does not disqualify F&Ms, so why should it disqualify PLPs?
Exactly right.
And while the political pundits supporting the F&M are busy writing negative articles on me, what is going on in the wider society is absent from their pages. What I find most interesting is how the newspaper could sensationalize my comments, yet no mention on the front page of the hundreds of average, hardworking citizens that are to be fired from the Ministry of Education. You had a meeting. You said, He blamed us for abusing and using these workers, some of whom were hired by the F&M. But they say that we are to blame because we abused them, we used them, but yet it's them who fired them.
That's right.
But not one word in the newspaper.
About that.
Many of these persons were placed, as I said, on contracts from the previous administration 6 years ago. But again, no mention of that. Silence. There's no mention of the record crime and murder terrorizing our country.
That's right.
Nothing but pure silence. There's no mention of the many high-profile F&Ms with exorbitant outstanding electricity bills.
Okay.
Deafening silence. They print what the PLP might owe, but they ain't saying what the F&Ms owe, and I know they owe plenty. But we will not remain silent on it.
No, sir.
Get started.
There is no mention of the constitutional crisis, for example, being created by the F&M's handling of the Commissioner of Police. Silence, tacitly silence. There's no mention on the front page of the further crippling of Grand Bahama economy due to the 3-month loss of the grand celebration, and that the hotels are basically empty, not one word. You know, one of the glimmer of hope for the Grand Bahama economy to at least sustain some income or level of income, or level of economic activity in Grand Bahama, was the grand celebration coming daily from Florida to Grand Bahama. They canceled, not one word. And then there was this insensitive response by the Minister of Tourism. He said, well, ain't nothing to that because all the countries down south that was devastated by hurricane, the ships can come to Freeport instead. That's something. And I don't know how you know that. Because there are other destinations that they could go to. Right. There's no mention in the newspapers. And all you're hearing is silence. And I say it's frightening. Everything that is associated with the PLP, please, let me remind us, is not bad.
That's right.
And everything associated with the F&M is not good. They and the F&M have some bad ways. And they can't point a finger at us because they have a shameful record. In that same Friday, September 22nd edition of the Tribune, when they write about me, sensationalizing things to pit me against my colleagues and or to make me look however they want me to look, right? In that same section, we look in the business section, there you would find an announcement by the minister responsible for BEC, BPL. What was he saying? BEC would have to be privatized. What a coincidence, eh? What a coincidence. Now let me jog your memory. They have a history of privatizing your things
Yes.
without showing you the details and being transparent. That's their history. Remember the F&M's last sale of the national patrimony, BTC? Remember that fire sale of BTC? Remember now, Dr. Minnis, Carl Bethel, Dion Folks, and that same Desmond Bannister all sat around at cabinet table and they sold BTC to Cable and Wireless. Help me to remind you and remind them that that company was not even part of the bidding process. Remember that?
Yes.
And talking about circumventing the process? They were not even part of that process. They said they sold BTC. That's what the F&M government said, that they sold BTC for $210 million. But guess what? The audited statements of Cable and Wireless confirm that they only paid them $204 million. I know where the $6 million went. And now they want to talk about us, PLPs. We later discovered how they left after selling it for $204 million, according to Cable and Wireless now. We discovered that they left millions of dollars in the bank at BTC for the new owners to collect. So they paid $204 million, and then they met in the bank account millions of dollars that belonged to them, so that you could write that off.
Yep.
That goes back in their coffers. All right? While forcing the public, now this is another key, you must remember, while forcing the public to carry on with the pension payment for the workers at the corporation.
40 million.
It started off at 40 million and is now over 100 million.
Oh, my stupid.
It is now over $100 million. So when you add that to the cost of the Bahamian people, they got it for $0. Right?
They get it for free.
That is the cost that they place on the public.
We pay that for it.
That is how the FM conducts the sale of your assets.
My Lord.
Right? And when they sold, they failed to protect workers during that process.
That's right.
They failed to negotiate in the interest of Bahamians. And they failed to show an open, transparent exercise in such dealings.
Correct.
I can tell you another secret. We discovered as well that the then Prime Minister, in his own personal hand, gave certain members of the executive team in BTC several hundreds thousands of dollars each, paid them off. And the question is why they got that money. Stay tuned. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about it soon. Just stay tuned. Right? And then after the wheeling and dealing, and they came back out to tell us that 49%, because it's the same as 51%. You remember that? Huh? I know what kind of math they were using. See, and then here it is. It was so interesting. They set standards. They hold us to a particular standard, and that the standard they hold us to is foreign to them.
Yes, right.
It's foreign to them. And I say, change must come.
Must come.
And change will come. As our goal is to change the business of politics across the board. We're weeding out corruption in every aspect, promoting transparency, serving the citizens of the Bahamas with integrity and respect. This is the kind of politics we all must promote. In the meantime, I have some questions coming for them on the floor of Parliament.
Yes.
And I want you to watch them run.
Oh, yeah.
Watch them close down Parliament again. Now ask Carl, Dion, Brent, and you would minister for me. When did contracts granted become gifted?
My Lord.
Exactly.
Do they become gifted when, in the case of Brent Simmons, you granted his company contracts at the airport, as he did in the airport authority scandal? Was that a gift?
Was that a gift?
Or perhaps they came gifted when the Prime Minister, when he was Minister of Health, right, leased his own building to the PHA. Right? Was that gifted? Was that a gift? And when did contracts again become gifted? There was a contract awarded by the BEC board for the replacement of some generators. Right? Before that contract that the board approved was gifted, they gifted it to another company, the subject of a major scandal, where they were able to establish that bribe was paid. I wonder whether that's the gift they're talking about.
I think so.
The bribe that they got. I wonder. Right? And then ask them, where was they talking about transparency and the bidding process? Where was it for the Marshall Bay Airport? I just saw an announcement that the Ministry of Tourism just gave it a PR contract. I wonder what process they engaged in. Where's the transparency for that? Are they talking about circumventing and it really gets you vexed, sometimes. Because I saw a picture with the Prime Minister, and he liked to tour now. He's the most touring Prime Minister I see. He could tour, man. He could tour. He could tour all the place, man. He could tour. I guess he liked walking. He could tour. He don't like talking, but he like talking, touring and picture. I saw him at Stephen Dillett Primary School, where they said they were inspecting the summer repairs that were supposed to go on there. Now, the first point I noted was someone said that the contract was awarded for about $3 million. That's what I think they said, about around $3 million. Now, I have a question about that, because I'm advised that it was awarded for some $5.3 million, one, and now I hear it may be more than that. I also have a question. I want to know who authorized the contractor to start the work, because nobody know who told him to go there and start working. At least what I peep, they know how they got there. So someone tell me how that contractor got there. Then the other question I have is, well, who recommended that contractor? Because when I became Minister of Works and I saw their names, they had something about this contractor, Mal Jack. So he don't know how to build, and they said, his name could not be recommended to even bid on any job because of his track record. And they said about his inability or capacity to do work and the kind of work they're doing. Now, I think that is now being borne out, because in the House last week, the minister gave a communication. One of the communications dealt with what is happening with the Stephen Dillett Primary School. He said that the contractor had given them the date that would have been completed by so and so. It ain't finished. So he have to send the children to two separate locations to have classes. And the one thing that was absent from his communication is, when did he expect those students to be back in that school? Well, I'm not surprised, because of who is doing the work. And so very soon we got to have some answers to that. And talking about circumventing the bid process. Young PLPs, you must become the defenders of your party.
Yes.
And you must at all times demand that those in power be accountable.
Yes.
You must become the voice for change.
Yes.
PLPs, you all must become the agents for change.
Yes.
And let me remind some of you in these chat groups, we cannot at all times just hook, like when you go fishing, you don't catch no fish unless he open his mouth. They throw their bait out there, but you won't catch it unless he open his mouth. And sometimes we have the tendency of, just because some facts are put out there, you immediately assume that those facts are real, those facts are true, without hearing the other side or knowing the full details. That's one of the challenges we're having. Right now, just let me remind you that right now, the hunter is telling the story. The hunter is writing the story. And as long as the hunter writes the story, it's going to glorify the hunt. And that's what's happening. And so, for example, when they call these names about Sunshine Insurance getting $14 million for insurance, I saw people saying, what nonsense is this? What nonsense was going on? Well, the truth of the matter is that Sunshine is a broker. Right? They participated in the bid process. They won the bid, and if they made 10%, less than 10% of that 14 million, because that's paid to the insurers. That's the first thing. And the next question you ask, what they omitted to say, is that contract came to an end in April or May. That another bid process went on, and they were awarded the contract again for much more than they were paid then. So what was the problem? What was the fuss about that? They mentioned a company that's associated with Minky Isaacs, as though he got $4 million in one shot. That was $4 million over a period of the last 5 years, paid to not just him, but to this was a contract that was being carried out by several other persons long before him. A contract that was in existence from 1992. This contract was going on. Others were doing it. His bid came in the lowest according to the board, and they gave it to him. So and guess what? He's still doing the work for the same people. Right? All they're doing, they're trying to distract us. Their role is to demonize us. That's what they're doing. So what we need to do is instead in the chat groups, ask, is this true?
Yes.
What are the full facts? And so that people who could access the full facts could then put it through the chat group, so we could put the right facts out. Fake news will continue to harm us, and they are not telling the full story. Like I said, I could tell part of the story, and it would look bad, and would smell bad. But as PLPs, when they tell a story about the PLP, always look behind it, because they are not going to tell you what you want to hear or the full story. And all of this will require us to work, and to work hard. And I suggest to you that when we work hard, change will come. As your leader, I will always be committed to progress and advancement in our party, and I ask you to join me. I welcome your new ideas. Young PLPs, this is time for us to work. This is time to get things done. I am ready to work. Are you ready, progressive young liberals?
Yes, sir.
Are you ready to be that change?
Yes, sir.
So join me and walk with me as we make this great march together. Let us do it together.
Yes.
Join me as we go from island to island, expanding our reach and bringing our talents together. Join me as we keep lifting the spirits of the Bahamian people in these challenging times. Join me as we welcome this wave of new talent within our party. And when that bell rings, I have a bell tonight. When that bell rings, your voice and ours together will sweep across this country, bringing a new day, a new time, and transformative leadership across our Bahamas.
Yes.
Change will come. Change will come. PLPs? PLPs? Thank you, and may God continue to bless us all as we try for this day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. You guys be seated. Well then, the hunt is on. Yes. Be brave. Be brave. The progressive young liberals will join you. Trust me, can't be this weekend, but we will join you as soon as possible. Well guys, our time is almost up. I don't want to see you all go.